Good morning, everyone. I will be discussing the topic interior plants, specifically trees, bamboo, tall plants, accents, shrubs, and ground covers. Before we discuss my specific topic, let me share to you what I have learned about my main topic, interior plants. An interior plant or household plant is a plant that is grown indoors in places such as residences, offices, hospitality, healthcare facilities, commercial spaces, and other spaces primarily for decorative purposes. However, study shows plants to have positive psychological effects. Interior plants help with indoor air purification, thus, reduced indoor air pollution by absorbing volatile organic compounds including benzene, formaldehyde, and trichloroethylene, which is generally toxic to humans. These pollutants are absorbed by the plant and its soil dwelling microbes without harm. In the Bible, plants came before men, and the first men and women were the stewards of the garden. In scientific theories, it is proof that plants thrive without human to tend it. As man became civilized, innovations to uses of plants for varied uses surfaced. Now let's discuss history. In an article about houseplants, Dan Bruzes, a plant expert, wrote about the origins of houseplants or the interior plants. First, around 600 BC in the city of Babylon, King Nebuchadnezzar led the construction of the garden for his wife, Queen Amethyst. The queen was ill with longing for her homeland, particularly the foliage and the rolling hills of her birthplace. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon was built and became one of the great wonders of the ancient world, complete with massive hanging displays of palms, dates, cedars, and bright flowers. However, the garden is still debatable as there is no traces of evidences that this garden exists, but only through an artist's illustration. Egyptians, Greeks, and Romans. Between 500 and 400 BC, houseplants were preferred by wealthy Egyptians, Greeks, and Romans in their estates. These three cultures kept plants in terracotta pots and marble. Romans went to great extent and collected largest and brightest flowers possible. Their most favorite houseplants were large rose and violet varieties. Miniature potted plants. Between 200 and 500 CE, miniature gardening became a trend in Asian countries. These miniature potted plants mimic a full-size tree or forest. The Vietnamese Hananbu, the Chinese Penjing, and the Japanese bonsai are all forms of miniature gardening. Renaissance resurgence. After the fall of Roman Empire, decorative houseplants largely disappeared from Europe. Monks kept the only houseplants and favored functional plants like herbs, vegetables, and fruit. Houseplants only again became vogue during the European Renaissance by wealthy people. Showing here is a still life painting, Lilies in a Jug, by Renaissance artist Hans Memling, 1485. The Victorian era saw the first use of houseplants by the middle class. The Industrial Revolution, coupled with advancement in architecture, allowed for better heated homes and more natural light. No longer the cold, dingy recesses of the past, the Victorian home provided a proper climate for hardy houseplants. Houseplants really didn't become so mainstream until after World War II. The rise of the modern office and the workday spurred the development of indoor plant use. Hardy plants resistant to low light and drought were used to liven up often sterile workplaces. From the workplace, these plants naturally migrated to homes. That was how the plant became popular in the interior spaces. Now I will discuss my specific topic. To start off, let me ask, what is a tree? A tree is a perennial plant with elongated stem or trunk, supporting branches and leaves. Some produces flowers or fruits. Some trees are deciduous and some are coniferous. Trees have many uses. Aside from shade or shelter provision, its fruit is a source of food. Trunks used as timber for construction, and chopped wood fuels cooking. Trees helps the environment. Its roots prevents soil erosion and its leaves moderates climate as it removes carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and stores large quantity of carbon dioxide in their tissues. There are many types of trees, but not all are suitable for interior spaces. The following are among the popular trees used in interior spaces. First, the fiddle leaf fig tree or Ficus lyrata. It is a species of flowering plant in a mulberry and fig family. It is a native to Western Africa and grows in lowland tropical rainforest. It can grow up to 12 to 15 meters or 39 to 49 feet tall. The leaves are variable in shape, but often with a broad apex and narrow middle resembling a lyre or a fiddle. They are up to 45 centimeter or 18 inches long and 30 centimeter or 12-inch broad with a leathery texture, prominent veins, and a wavy margin. A tricky houseplant despite its popularity, the fiddle leaf fig does not respond well to being moved, especially from a spot where it is thriving. Proper drainage, adequate sunlight will keep your fiddle leaf fig bright green with its signature glossy finish. Next is Norfolk Island pine or Araucaria heterophylla. The Norfolk Island pine is endemic to Norfolk Island in Pacific Ocean. It has a graceful pyramidal shape with wide-spaced branches symmetrically arranged in whorl horizontal tiers along the single straight trunk. Full sun is normally best for developing compact symmetrical growth, but light afternoon shade may be needed to avoid possible foliage bleach. As a house plant, it usually adapts to the warm, dry atmosphere found in most offices and homes. Consider weekly or biweekly applications of dilute liquid fertilizer from spring through fall. Water regularly spring to autumn, avoiding soil that is too wet. In winter, mist in heated rooms and water sparingly. Olive tree or dwarf olive. Although more commonly thought of as an outdoor tree in a spot that receives lots of bright light and direct sun, an olive tree can be an impressive large indoor plant. Rotating the plant regularly will help it grow evenly as it will naturally reach towards the light source. These plants can grow large indoors. A dwarf variety is advised if space is at a premium. Well-draining soil is important to ensure its spot has a drainage hole and water is allowed to drain freely. Next is rubber tree, Ficus elastica. With robust glossy leaves and the capacity to get nice and big, the rubber plant is one strapping specimen. There is no question that the large indoor plant is easy on the eye, but these plants are handy around the house. With large, glossy leaves, this plant will purify air toxins. Rubber trees are one of the most low-maintenance indoor plants. They will thrive with some bright, indirect light and good water once a week. Next is Schefflera or umbrella tree, an often overlooked large indoor plant. The Schefflera or umbrella plant is a hardy plant that can grow into beautiful indoor tree. Named for the umbrella-like formation of the foliage, it's easy to care for and can provide color with some variegated options that can add pattern to a large indoor plant jungle. Bright, indirect light is best for this type of plant and rotate regularly to ensure even growth. Next is natal mahogany tree or Trichlea emetica. Natal mahogany plant is an excellent upright exotic-looking houseplant that loves to be watered. The natal mahogany, a hardy, woody, bushy plant with dark green shiny leaves, can reach over 7 feet in height and 4 feet in width. Although a natal mahogany resembles a Schefflera, it's more exotic looking. Interior scapers have learned that a natal mahogany can grow just about anywhere as long as it has enough water. This plant, relatively new to the market, is an absolutely sensational indoor plant from South Africa. However, these plants are considered poisonous and should be kept away from pets and children. Bamboo. is an evergreen perennial plant that belongs to grass family, a strong type of grass that grows abundantly in the Pacific region. Like other grass, its stem is hollow. Bamboo is a fast growing plant. It can grow up to 36 inches within 24 hours or 1 inch every 40 minutes. This plant can survive in diverse climates from hot tropical regions to cool mountainous regions. With its capability and flexibility, bamboos can be used as a building materials, food source, and versatile raw products. As a renewable material, bamboo is a good plant for afforestation due to its rapid growth and tolerance to many types of lands. Bamboo also helps carbon sequestration, thus a plant that can aid climate change mitigation. Bamboo is traditionally considered an outdoor plant, but under the right conditions, certain varieties will thrive indoors and can become the most interesting centerpiece. Bamboos require at least 6 hours of direct sunlight per day, ideally an atrium or greenhouse where light and humidity is high. Overwatering may damage the plant. It is recommended that sizable holes of pots to enable excess water to flow out. To keep bamboo green and lush, high nitrogen fertilizer is a must. With its rapid growth, bamboo should be maintained through repotting so it will not completely fill the container. These are the best bamboo varieties for indoors. First is the Bambosa ventricosa, or Buddha's belly. Grows from 5 to 15 feet tall. This bamboo grows with unique zigzagging bloated combs, giving it its common name, and the bulginess is a direct result of the plant's water stress level. The less water, the more plant bellies out. This variety is very adaptable to a wide range of conditions and even makes an interesting bonsai specimen. Next is Kimono bambosa quadrangularis or yellow grove, aka square stem bamboo. It's a variety with upright and graceful foliage and yellow grooved, square combs, grows 8 to 10 feet tall and requires optimal light. Shodososa japonica, or Japanese arrow bamboo, a surprisingly sharp indoor bamboo. A profusion of slim combs grow tightly together and adorn this tough plant. This is a more shade-tolerant variety because of its larger leaves. Next topic is tall plants. Tall plants provide the same benefit with other plants. The earlier mentioned indoor trees are also considered as tall plants. A plant specialist may recommend the following indoor plants and grass that are popular in the market today. Saber fig or Ficus alii. The Ficus alii or Amstel king, as it is sometimes called, is a large plant that originally came from Asia, Malaysia, and India. It was first grown commercially in Hawaii, where it got the Hawaiian name alii, which means king, an elegant hardy plant with long, thin leaves that requires bright, indirect light or tolerates lower light and a good water once a week. It rarely sheds leaves and can be moved around. They are medium green, 3 inches to 10 inches long, narrow, willow-like, and thick. The newer king alii ficus have wider leaves. New growth on the ficus plant has a reddish bronze color, but as the leaves mature, they change to a medium green. These plants are considered poisonous and should be kept away from pets and children. Birds of paradise. A species of evergreen tropical herbaceous plant, a native to South Africa, is closely related to bananas. Often mistakenly call this plant the banana tree because it looks like banana plants. These regal plants, for which they are named for the beautiful orange grain-like flowers that they produce, like birds of paradise. Under the right conditions, including full southern light exposure, proper humidity, and temperature, bird of paradise may flower indoors with incredible paddle-shaped leaves that are attractive and glossy. This plant brings the jungle vibes. Outdoors, it thrives in bright light and can handle some full sun. Swiss cheese plant or Monstera deliciosa. Monstera is a remarkable large indoor plant. It's a woody vine that grows in the Tropic of North and South America, where it can reach 70 feet tall. But it's also a popular houseplant because its leaves, which develop holes that give it its whimsical name, may grow up to 3 feet wide. It thrives in bright, indirect light and with a good water once the top layer of the soil is dry. Quintia palm, Hoea forsteriana. Fairly slow growing, Quintia palm as a large indoor plant requires a bit of nurturing, but provides a beautifully sculptural foliage that makes a real statement in a space. These plants prefer not to be moved from vessel to vessel. Soil should be very well draining to avoid root rot and requires bright, indirect sunlight. The lady palm, or Rhapis excelsa, is a small palm species that grows in dense clumps of slender, upright green stems. On the stems are fan-shaped, glossy green fronds that each have between 5 and 8 narrow, lens-shaped segments. Because this palm is extremely tolerant of low light conditions, it's popular to grow indoors as a house plant. This palm has a fairly slow growth rate, gaining less than a foot in height per year. Next is dragon tree or Dracena marginata. The common name Madagascar dragon tree is a combination of its native origin, Madagascar and dragon. It is a common indoor plant that has a red resin when cut. It is popular since 1960s in homes and workplaces. Its growth pattern tends to remain quite slender and tall, even after many years of growth, and still looks great even when it reaches maximum indoor height. Its stems are stiff and sturdy so it can fully support itself. Like other plants, it also helps clean air, filtering out xylene and trichloroethylene. Leaves will scorch if it's too bright, requires moist soil, and room temperature should not be lower than 10 degrees Celsius. Next is African milk thistle or Euphorbia trigona. The Euphorbia trigona or African milk thistle is an exotic large outdoor and indoor plant with thin, spiky stems lined with rows of smaller leaves that grow like chandeliers from the main stem. This succulent does not require an intensive caring. It can thrive through direct and indirect sunlight, and the soil needs to be drained out before watering again. Accent plants. We all know that accent plants can be outdoor and indoor. However, my topic is focused on interior plants, so I will discuss more on the indoor accent plants. Nevertheless, the same principles applies both landscape and interior plantscape. As the name indicates, accent plants, like accessories, puts character in interior spaces. It highlights particular areas and furniture pieces. It provides visual impact. It draws the eyes and provides focal point. The following are popular accent plants commonly found in homes and workplaces. Phalaenopsis orchid. These delicate-looking orchids are not as fragile as they appear. They'll bloom for months and can live for years with little care. They prefer bright, indirect light. An east or west facing window is best. Once a week watering is enough. African violet. African violet or St. Paulia produce a single rosette of velvety green leaves on short leaf stalks. It has a cluster of single, semi-double, or double flowers in white, pink, red, violet, purple, blue, lime green, pale yellow, or bicolor. Petals of this tropical flowering houseplant are ruffled, rounded, or fringed. It grows up to 12 inches tall. African violets bloom in low light but tend to flower more in brighter, indirect light. It requires water at least once a week in the summer and more frequently in the winter when the soil dries out more quickly. Anthurium, popular as a tropical flower for the home. Anthurium is a brightly colored blooms. These plants adapt to the low light and erratic humidity of most homes and can bloom almost constantly. It grows up to 20 inches tall. Bright indirect light or direct light is too much for Anthurium and doesn't like consistently moist soil. Bromeliad. Striking and unusual, a bromeliad blooms only once, then slowly, sometimes over several years, reproduces by forming offshoots before the main plant dies. The offshoots can be repotted as their own plants. Bromeliads have tricky care requirements depending on their root system. Some tropical species can grow up to 8 feet tall, but most bromeliads grown as houseplants will only grow up to 3 feet. Medium to bright light is required. A small amount of water into the cup-shaped leaves in the center of the plant to keep it consistently moist, and empty out the water weekly and refill to prevent it from becoming stagnant. Tillandsia or air plant. These tropical plants are epiphytes, which means they don't need potting soil and require only minimal care. Tiny scales on their leaves, called trichomes, absorb water and nutrients directly from the air and even help shade the plant from scorching sun. The plant's roots are usually only for clinging and do not absorb water and nutrients like earth-bound plants. Air plants or tillandsias are perfect for craft projects, small space living, can be tucked into shells, driftwood crevices, glass bubbles, and wire baskets, or superglued to stones or wood. Peace lily is an indoor tropical plant with attractive deep green foliage and long-lasting blooms. The distinctive flower of peace lily is a pure white bracts that forms a softly curved backdrop of the central column of tiny, closely set flowers known as a spadix. It grows up to 3 feet, requires bright, indirect light, but it can also tolerate low light. Peace lilies don't like saggy soil. The soil need to dry out between watering. Next is the sweetheart plant. Philodendron scandens is known as the sweetheart plant or heart leaf due to the heart leaf shape. It is a vining philodendron and can grow to astonishing lengths, either supported as a climber or left trailing from the hanging basket or shelf. A row of trailing philodendron scandens makes a fantastic living green curtain. Mature plants may produce spades of green-white flowers, versatile, but in medium light, can tolerate bright light but not direct sunlight. Keep the soil moist at all time. Average household temperatures from 16 to 24 degrees Celsius are ideal. Shrubs. Shrubs are small to medium perennial woody plants and therefore have persistent woody stems above ground. Usually, shrubs are distinguished from trees by their height and multiple stems. Most shrubs are less than 8 meters. Some shrubs are deciduous and others evergreen. The following are popular shrubs found in most gardens and residences. Azalea. Azalea is a flowering shrub, usually blooms in spring. Their flowers often lasting several weeks. Shade tolerant, they prefer living near or under the trees. They are planted abundantly as ornamental plant in the southern US, southern Asia, and parts of Southwest Europe. Azaleas are generally slow growing and do best in well-drained acidic soil. Fertilizer needs are low. Some species need regular pruning. Next is wintergreen boxwood. Wintergreen boxwood are the most versatile and adaptable shrub that can thrive indoor. This durable, hardy plant adapts to a variety of growing hardiness zones. It is cold, hardy, yet also performs beautifully in warmer zones as well. Korean rock fern. Is a little fern perfect for adding texture to shady spots in the garden. Grows best in a container and also tolerates heat and humidity. It is important to keep ferns on a covered porch and not in direct sunlight. This is an excellent small scale fern with lush, dark green foliage in a dense mounding habit. The Korean rock fern works well with smaller woodland perennials and in containers, indoors or out. The fern is fast growing to 12 inches tall and to 12 inches wide or more and enjoys full to partial sun. It also requires wet or constantly moist soil. Just like many ferns, it prefers an abundance of organic matter in the soil. Hydrangea. Hydrangeas work great for growing in larger pots as long as they receive enough sunlight and moisture. They require a little bigger of a pot because their roots are aggressive and quickly fit small containers. One that is at least 2 feet wide will work perfectly. The beautiful blooms of hydrangea will be wonderful accent to any outside porch or area. Ground covers. Ground covers is any plant that grows over an area of ground. Ground cover provides protection of the topsoil from erosion and drought. In an ecosystem, the ground cover forms the layer of vegetation below the shrub layer known as the herbaceous layer. The most widespread ground covers are grasses of various types. In gardening jargon, the term ground cover refers to plants that are used in place of weeds and improves appearance by concealing the bare earth. Ground cover plants resistant to long-term exposure to sun, overwatering from rain, and harsh winds are the common choice for roof gardens. The following are the common ground covers. Moses in the cradle. Classic border for lush tropical style gardens. Dense, clumping rosettes of succulent purple and green leaves. It grows up to 50 centimeter long, forms a solid ground cover in sun to part shade. Extremely drought hardy, easy to grow from cuttings directly planted in the ground. Purple fan flower or Scivola emula. Masses of mauve fan-shaped flowers for most of the year. Tiny mid-green leaves on a low-growing spreading ground cover up to 30 centimeters. Thrives on neglect, excellent for rockeries and borders. Easy to propagate, responds well to clipping, full sun to part shade. Zoysia grass is a warm season, low maintenance turf grass. It tolerates heat, drought, and salt spray. The low growing, sod forming plants spread by stolons and rhizomes. While it prefers full sun, zoysia grass will tolerate some shade. Zoysia grasses green up early in the spring but are brown during winter dormancy. Zoysia grass can be good choice for golf courses, park areas, and athletic fields. While zoysia grasses stand up well to traffic, they are slow to repair. So, it is not ideal for heavy wear areas such as football or soccer fields. And the ground covers are also good for living walls or green walls. There are many types of ground covers, but these images are few of the most popular ground covers that grows in the tropics. Plants, indoor or outdoor, gives the same benefit. It provides food, medicine, raw materials, products, and positive psychological effect. But most of all, it gives us joy and pleasure by tending and by just being around it. Thank you. That ends my presentation.